A rumble in the darkness. A man gasps, choking on smoke, the world collapsing around him. He reaches out blindly. His parents are trapped. The fire is everywhere. In those terrifying seconds, a heroic figure is born, or reborn. This is not just the story of a fighter. This is the story of a man haunted, burdened, broken, and still fighting. This is the tragic life of Mark "the Hammer" Coleman, the first UFC Heavyweight Champion whose legacy extends far beyond the octagon, and whose later life became a struggle for survival, redemption, and meaning. From humble beginnings to glory, from dominance to despair, from personal demons to near death. Tonight, you will see not just the champion, but the human being beneath the punches and medals. Stay with me, because the truth behind the legend is darker and more powerful than any knockout. Mark Coleman was born on December 20th, 1964, in Fremont, Ohio. As a youth, he turned to wrestling, discovering early on that in the crucible of combat, he felt alive. In high school, he won state titles, and in college, he transferred from Miami University to Ohio State, where he captured an NCAA Division I title in 1988. Internationally, he represented the U.S. in freestyle wrestling, earning a silver medal at the 1991 World Championships and competing in the 1992 Olympics. All this established him as a force in the grappling world, but fate would pull him into a new arena. In the mid-1990s, the UFC was nascent, raw, often chaotic. Coleman debuted in UFC 10 in 1996, entering a tournament where fighter stamina, will, and brutality mattered as much as technique. In UFC 10 and 11, he won tournaments, proving that a wrestler with ground control and heavy strikes, what would become known as ground and pound, could dominate in MMA. He then became the first UFC heavyweight champion by submitting Dan Severn. His reign was short. It lasted just under 6 months before he lost to Maurice Smith by decision. But the impact was permanent. He earned the moniker Godfather of Ground and Pound for pioneering the tactic of taking opponents down and striking from the top. Coleman's career was not smooth sailing. He moved to Pride in Japan, where the fights were often brutal and tournaments grueling. He won the 2000 Pride Openweight Grand Prix, defeating some of the world's best fighters in multiple fights in one night. But injuries, wear and tear, and losses piled on. He battled legends like Mirko Cro Cop, Fedor Emelianenko, and struggled with aging joints. By the time the UFC bought Pride and the integration began, Coleman was past his peak. He returned to the UFC for a late run, but was defeated in his final fight in 2010 by Randy Couture via rear naked choke. He ended with a career record of 16-10. In 2008, he was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, a fitting honor for a pioneer. But behind the accolades, the life was crumbling. In his post-fight years, Coleman descended into alcoholism. The toll of injuries and loss of purpose haunted him. He sold off much of his memorabilia, struggled to rebuild relationships with his daughters, and for a time, drifted in and out of meaning. Then, in March 2024, tragedy struck, but also redemption. While staying overnight at his parents' home, a fire broke out in the early hours. Coleman was awakened by smoke and flames. He scrambled to find his parents, carrying them out of the burning house. He returned into the inferno, attempting to rescue his dog, Hammer. But the dog perished from smoke inhalation. Coleman was badly injured, his lungs scorched, hands burned, and he was placed in a medically induced coma. His daughters were told he might not survive. But after 36 hours, he awoke, learned his parents had survived, and learned Hammer could not be saved. In horror and pain and heartbreak, he wept. But he also grasped a moment of clarity. This was his crucible. Recovery was brutal. He battled pneumonia from lung damage, underwent surgeries on his hips, and faced the emotional weight of losing his dog and nearly losing himself. Yet in that low, Coleman began to rebuild. He entered rehab for his alcoholism, confronted his depression and anxiety, and in time recommitted to sobriety. He moved in with his daughter Kenzie, re-establishing bonds that had frayed. He sold some of his championship belts to eke out stability during the dark days. He started working with fighters, advising, coaching, and slowly laying the foundation for a new identity beyond fighter. He even adopted another Rottweiler, naming him King Martello, to carry forward the legacy of the lost dog. Through it all, Coleman's mantra became, "Keep moving forward." But the tragedy still weighs. The pain in his joints, the scars in his lungs, the guilt over Hammer, the demons of addiction. They are not fully vanquished. He's had moments of relapse fears, emotional struggles, memories he cannot escape. His daughters speak openly of being uncertain, of carrying anxiety over their father's well-being. Yet, they also express pride. Their father was a hero, not just in the ring, but when it mattered most. Coleman has publicly said that in the years since sobriety, he's experienced the best period of his life, despite the scars. He's back in the gym coaching, back among fighters, still battling each day as a mortal, not an invincible warrior. Throughout this journey, Coleman's life juxtaposes extremes. He climbed to the heights of MMA glory, only to tumble into addiction and loss. He faced literal fire and almost death, yet found a spark of rebirth. His life embodies the tragic hero, flawed, wounded, striving, never quite at peace. And that is the real power of his story. Not that he could beat anyone in the octagon, but that he fought the battles inside and continues to fight them. As we pause, consider this. Mark Coleman won championships, pioneered techniques, created a legacy. But his greatest fight came after the roar of the crowd had faded. He reminds us that no matter how high the summit, we all wrestle shadows. What defines us is not just when we punch our opponent. It's when we rise from the ashes, carry what remains, and walk forward. Not because we must, but because we choose to. Thank you for watching. If you found this story moving, share it, reflect on it, and remember that heroes are real and sometimes broken.